one, go!
Okay, where do I begin with this movie? If you watched my review on The Last Jedi, you actually might remember that I was easier on that film than most people were. Over time I view it, it's changed a little bit. I view it as not a terrible movie, but a pretty terrible Star Wars movie. Like, it would work great if it was on its own, but as a Star Wars movie, it doesn't really work at all. And the whole franchise has really been thrown out of balance because of it, and now we're getting into the course correction. This is the movie that is the embodiment of trying to please everyone and failing to really please anyone. Now, before I rip this movie through, and just to let you know, there will be spoilers up ahead, I want to point out some of the positives. The actors are still all great. Say what you will about the writing of these characters, but I can still see great personality coming out of these performances. Daisy Ridley gives me a lot to work off of with Rey, even when she's not doing much. Her smile and just the way she portrays her gives me a lot to work with. And her journey with Adam Driver's character Kylo I still find compelling, and their connection and how they're still trying to woo each other to the dark side and the light side at the same time. Now, do they go too far with it? Oh, heck yeah. That is definitely not what I wanted. But they do the best with what they are given. The problem is for everybody else is they're not actually given a whole lot to do. Finn is especially lacking in this movie. They don't give him anything really to do except yell, "Rey!" and that's it. Now, I will also say that this film actually has some pretty good ideas that I think could have been done well. But the film is rushed and filled to the brim with so much stuff, and you never have time to feel like anything actually sinks in. Like, think back to the original Star Wars when Alderaan was destroyed in the first movie. The effect that had on all the characters, the power that the Empire had, Obi-Wan straggling back, and with feelings of all the life lost, Leia mourning the loss of her planet, and how the film just let that power sink in. Well, now out of flippin' nowhere in this movie, the Emperor is back and he has a fleet of Star Destroyers, all that have the power to destroy a planet. They just walk up and destroy a planet, no setup, no nothing, just boom, there, it's gone. It's like, what? Forget the fact that the previous movie spent exactly 0 seconds setting any of this up. Because of this, the whole film's like it is course correcting so hard that it gives me whiplash. And don't get me wrong, I actually like some of the ideas that this movie sets up, but the problem is it doesn't feel earned. Our characters act like they are so close and that they're like a family, but honestly, they feel like strangers. And the story in this movie feels like the final pieces that belong to a completely other puzzle. Then there's just the way they handled some of the characters. Like, don't get me wrong, I know that Carrie Fisher's death gave them a huge speed bump to overcome, but I just don't like how she basically killed herself to give her son a push in the right direction, or at least the way they framed it, like she bravely killed herself to do that. Never use bravely killed themselves. I don't know, the way they set that up, it really felt off. Although I will say that did lead to the film's best moment, when Chewbacca hears that Leia is dead. He drops to the ground in pain, screaming, because even though I know the Legends books are not canon anymore, they say in there how Chewie's increased his life debt to Han to cover his family, which included his wife Leia and her brother Luke, and the pain that really hits him in that moment that he wasn't able to save any of those that he pledged his life to. It's a really good moment. And the film does have some good moments like that, and a good sense of humor, but the problem is the film is filled with so much pointless stuff that it's hard to become invested in these characters. There's 2 random women characters pointed in these films, and honestly, I can't tell you a thing about them. There's just too much pointless stuff. Like, even when they say stuff that's supposed to be groundbreaking, like, oh, Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter, it doesn't feel like it matters. Plus, that is definitely not what the last film was trying to say. Now, if the trilogy had been building up to this moment the whole time, I think this could have actually hit me a lot harder, especially if we found out about it at the end of the last movie and not in the middle of this one. Like, think about that. Like, what if when Snoke was killed, the Emperor comes out there? And then it's like, holy shoot, he's been manipulating all this stuff, and Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. How much more of an impact would that have had on this film? There would have been so much more character stuff that we could have done, and actually maybe have given an explanation of why Palpatine was still alive. Which they don't, just boom, in the opening credits, Palpatine's alive, he sent a message, boom, accept this. This is the way we're going. Well, look, when it comes down to it, I can explain it in a million different ways why this movie doesn't work. But in the end, the most I can say about this movie is that it's a mess. I am giving Rise of the Skywalker a 3.5 out of 10. It's a pretty bad movie. My advice would be just watch The Mandalorian instead. P.S. Did anyone else kind of wish that Rey died and Ben was the last Skywalker, the last Jedi again? And he had to start the new Jedi Order, but he had to do it away from the Republic and everything because he knows that nobody would take him back after all he has done? I just think that would have made for a much more interesting ending.